Welcome to Seggs Talk Radio, a podcast that explores kink and sex through candid and curious conversations. Join me and expert guests in exploring taboos and unpacking what it means to be sex and kink positive. Go check out our new website, sextalkradio.com. That is SEGGS talkradio.com. And I hope you enjoy the episode.
I know this to be true because I did it. For 3 months, I sold sex online. It was not the right career path for me. So I got out of it just as easily as I had gotten into it.
Sure.
Not, I thought, a particularly provocative argument.
I want to introduce you guys to Aria, which is a groundbreaking intimacy concierge service for couples. It can help you deepen and explore your relationship and energize it through curated experiences called scenes. I recently received the Sense scene, which was all about sensory play and pleasure mapping with my partner. It came with a premium pinwheel toy, a finger vibrator, and a satin blindfold, as well as a really good custom curated playlist. I had so much fun exploring this scene. If you're ready to spice it up with Aria, go to arya.fyi/STR for 15% off today. This episode of Seggs Talk Radio is brought to you by the HUD app. The HUD app is changing the face of modern and casual dating by giving users a really fun and flirty interface, and also it has bedroom features where you can select all of the kinky and naughty things you're into and show those to potential future partners. I personally love using the HUD app, and I think it's a great system for finding kinky people near you. Go to hudapp.com/sextalk. That is HUDAPP.com/SEGGS talk TALK for more. Not everyone wants a purple sparkly dildo, so when Peep Show Toys reached out to me and sent me their line of the Solina hyper-realistic, body-safe, platinum-grade silicone dildos, I was super excited. When I say they are realistic looking, I'm serious. They are very hyper-realistic. They are soft on the outside, they are firm on the inside, and they have a suction on the bottom for hands-free play if that's what you are into. Go to peepshowtoys.com and use code SEX, SEGGS, for 10% off of your entire order. When I started optimizing my life around my menstrual cycle, everything changed for the better. That is why I love the Stardust app. It is far more than a period tracker. It is an entire hormonal health universe inside of an app. I've been using it for quite a while now, and what I love the most is the beautiful design. I love that I can share my cycle with a friend or with a partner. I get customized notifications, and I've learned so much about my cycle and about hormones. So wherever you get your apps, search for the Stardust app, and I look forward to your thoughts. Melissa Petro, welcome to Seggs Talk Radio.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. You are the author of Shame on You. You are a writer, speaker, mama, and a lot of things. What else is on that list?
There was a moment when I was probably best known as, and maybe still, the hooker teacher.
Okay. Well, we can just jump right on in. The hooker teacher. Some of the headlines, I was going down another rabbit hole today just so that it's all fresh in my mind, are preposterous. Would you like to give the listeners a little overview of what happened and your career leading up to that moment?
Sure. I was a public school teacher. I'd become a teacher through the New York City Teaching Fellows program, which takes people from alternative careers and puts them into struggling New York City classrooms. So economically disadvantaged areas and places where there's a lot of ESL and just places that need a lot of young, enthusiastic, vibrant teachers.
Yeah.
So I was 30 at that point, and it's a very prestigious program, difficult to get into.
Okay.
So I thought, what the hell, I'll try. At that point, I was very newly sober.
Oh, wow.
I actually had to sign myself out of an inpatient rehab
to start the program.
Begin the program.
Sure.
So when I did the interview, I was just not expecting to become a teacher, just putting myself out there as we're talking.
See what sticks. Yeah.
Right. And another friend that I trusted had applied and gotten accepted as well, ultimately. So I thought, what the hell? I'll try it. I loved kids.
Yeah.
The interview went well. They said, why do you think you can be a teacher? And I said, I can do anything I choose to do. If I decide to do this, I'll be a great teacher.
Yeah.
And I was.
Yeah.
I was a
I can see it.
really good teacher. I really lucked out and I became an art teacher.
Fun.
And they basically had no curriculum for me, so I just like created.
I have such fond memories of my art teachers.
Everyone does.
And art
They're
school.
like,
So fun.
They get to do the important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I went in there. I developed this curriculum that incorporated art and creative writing. So people were telling their stories visually and with their words.
Yeah.
Talking about kids K through 5.
Yeah.
Who are just learning how to use their words. We did self-portraits. We did landscapes, cityscapes, our communities, ourselves.
Oh.
It was just so much fun.
Have you always been passionate about writing, it seems like?
By then, I'd had a degree in creative nonfiction.
Okay.
So I was able to use that to a certain extent. And it was like the real job that I had to take because like who gets to be a writer full time?
Right.
That was not like even a career path I had even considered.
Yeah.
So I was teaching for about 3 years when I used my MFA to write and publish one of my very, very first essays.
Okay.
It was like a 700-word op-ed on the
That's
Huffington
short.
Post. Very short. Basically said, it was right around the time, and start revealing my age and where we are in like the timeline. This was like right when Craigslist was still a thing, but getting shut down.
Because for sex work stuff or for...
The erotic service erotic services section was becoming no longer.
Totally.
Like he had kind of bowed to pressure to change. Maybe it was still the adults. Like it had a name and then it had less of a name and then it was even more disguised. And the op-ed that I wrote was basically like, why are we pathologizing this or why are we creating this like air of deviance? This is something that people are using to trade sex for money.
And they've always found ways. There's always been websites.
Right. And I used my own experience to support this argument that not everybody out there is beholden to a pimp, that some people are just looking for a way to make money. And here's a way to get into it and out of it as easily as one wants to. And I know this to be true because I did it. For 3 months, I sold sex online. It was not the right career path for me. So I got out of it just as easily as I had gotten into it.
Sure.
Not, I thought, a particularly provocative argument.
Yeah.
Some people, it began have sex for different reasons. And one reason for some people is money. And that was my reason. And I did it on Craigslist. I was not a professional. I didn't want to be a professional. I talked to some agencies before then. I think that I didn't get hired by the agency, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so that's why I went the other route. There was like one other service that was like way more legit. I forget what it was called at the time. Backpage.
Yes, which also got shut down.
Right.
Even more than Craigslist.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't want to do Backpage because I was just a college girl, bored and curious.
And it seemed like you went into it knowing you wanted to do it temporarily.
Right. I was like a non-pro.
Make some money.
We called ourselves. I just wanted to try.
Sure.
I was like really miserable anyway, and I wanted money. And I'd worked in stripping throughout college. So I knew what sex work was.
You knew the dynamics.
It was I had an ambivalent relationship to it. I think it was probably the best thing to do, but like neither was anything else I was doing at the time. So like, why not just make $30,000 in a month, which is what I ended up doing.
Holy shit.
Well, I hit it hard.
Okay.
I hit it very, very hard. Yeah. And when it just didn't.
It's quite saturated now. In New York. It's different.
I think it's probably incredibly different.
Yes, it's difficult.
This was just like, I placed some ads.
Yeah.
I answered some ads. I scratched that itch. It just got itchier. I just kept scratching it. I made a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm just scratching till it bleeds. And it's not actually what I want to be doing with my life or my time.
Totally.
So I'm out of it.
Yeah.
And that's when I became a teacher.
Yeah.
And that's when I started using my MFA.
Okay.
Because I did have ambitions to be a writer.
Definitely.
And to publish a memoir.
And she is.
And here I am now. All's well that ends well.
Okay.
Anyway, so I wrote that op-ed.
Piece.
Very, very naively signed my byline.
How did you get that? Like, did you submit a piece that you wrote or they reached out to?
I submitted.
Okay.
So in grad school, we learned if you want to publish your writing, you query publications. You send them a little pitch letter, about a page. proposing the essay, and then they write back. And I'd gotten like a rejection from the New York Times and like
to get rejected a lot to get them. Yeah.
I was so naive. It was one of the first pieces I'd really tried to place. And then here, like Huffington
And you
Post
probably didn't think twice about it too either, because you're like, what? How fucking cool is this?
I was so proud.
Yeah.
It was Huffington Post at the time.
Right.
It was like, wow, I'm right next to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Like, that is so cool. Look at me. I'm so proud of myself.
For sure. And then
I forget when the article came out, but I had just started my 4th year of teaching.
Wow.
It was September, and I was met on the steps of the school where I taught by a photographer.
Oh my God.
And wow, it's interesting. I should do more research on my own story, because at some point, either before or after this, I was told that there was going to be a story. Someone called me, or that reporter.
So the Huffington Post piece had already come out.
Oh yeah, it had
When
been
did
out
that
for a couple weeks.
A couple weeks.
Couple weeks. That was over,
and nothing crazy happened.
There was no.
Yeah.
There was no. I mean, like, every writer hopes to like go viral,
right?
But no.
Okay.
You were like, I would read the comments. That was when you could still comment under an article.
And were those mixed?
Yeah, I mean, people, what they say.
Yeah.
You know.
You never want to go to the comment threads. It's like Reddit. Like,
well, I'm like this like sadistic person that wants to hear every negative thing about me.
Oh God.
And, like, decide what there is the truth in it.
I feel ya. But so the photographer coming to your school was the first inkling that you had?
This was like, oh shit. They're gonna so I found out. I think I got a call before then. I should really know my story, right?
It's okay.
I haven't told it in this close
it was like
in a long time.
Deeply traumatic too. It's not going to be
10 years ago.
The clearest, of course.
So I was told that the New York Post was going to write a story.
Okay.
Bless me.
Yeah, totally.
Baby me.
For
sure. I was so naive. I was unsure which point of view they would take. Like, was this going to be like a, look at her, she really turned her life around?
Right.
Not that I didn't know what the New York Post was, but I wasn't an avid reader.
Yeah.
You know, so like I had an inkling that it probably wasn't going to be like this redemptive narrative.
Sure.
And instead it was.
But you were optimistic.
I was. I was living in this like little studio on Park Avenue at the time, and there was this beautiful restaurant underneath me, and I would come downstairs maybe to smoke. Maybe I was a smoker then. And I had this huge crush on the guy that worked in the place, and we would talk, and it was really sweet. And I remember having a conversation with him, being like, I'm not sure which direction this is going to go. Yeah. And he was really lovely, because he was like, oh, it's kind of like Superman. You always really want to be revealed. Like, people don't want to stay hidden. And this was sort of true.
Right.
And even the New York Post reporter was like, well, this is what you were asking for. Kind of.
Yeah.
You know, like, you wanted a platform. So here you go.
That was the angle of the...
Yeah, he had actually, now I'm remembering, and it's probably in the book. So
yeah.
He had followed me from that Park Avenue apartment all the way to the next morning. That's what happened. So the first morning I was assaulted, metaphorically, on the steps.
And the person asked you for a photograph?
Oh, they didn't ask for anything.
They were photographing
they
you.
Photographing me, and I ran into the building. Oh. And I just stayed quiet.
Are there better laws about that now, paparazzi stuff? Or,
I mean...
That seems so violating.
It was really, really terrifying.
For sure.
At the next day, my principal was like, oh, we thought that was your ex-boyfriend, or a man was asking about you, and she was trying to protect me. And then I felt really guilty.
Sure.
Like, oh no, I brought this on myself.
Yeah.
It took a couple days for the story to actually run.
Okay.
But before it did, like the night before the actual story was going to run, I received a phone call that I was being removed from the classroom and put onto what was then called the rubber room. I don't know if it even still exists, but it was administrative duties for teachers.
Okay.
And that's where I sat for a very long time.
Wow.
Never went back to my classroom.
Still going into the school to do certain?
No.
Oh, okay.
Never
it was
went
at
back
home?
to school. The building is on, it's like downtown, I taught in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And you basically just are assigned a desk that you sit at all day long.
Punishment. It's so
it's
weird.
So shamey,
Yes.
like detention.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
You're not, but you have to be there at a certain time, and you have to be there until a certain time, and you get like 45 minutes.
Literally detention. Yeah.
It really is. There's nothing to do. They put a computer there, and for some time I would use it to like write my book. And then one day they came and took it away.
Oh my God.
One time I made a call, like the only time I made a personal call when I was in the rubber room, I called like T-Mobile because there was like an issue with my bill and it kept cutting out. Like the phone, like I don't know if they were,
right.
I got really paranoid.
For sure.
And like everyone there hated me because I was doing nothing.
Yeah.
And they had like real jobs. They were actual employees of the DOE, and I was just getting paid to sit there and think about it, you know?
Wow. Do you remember what the headline was of the post? Yeah.
So the piece that it came out that ultimately sent me there was Bronx teacher admits I'm an ex-hooker. And I was outraged because I had never used the word hooker.
Yeah.
I was outraged about a lot of things.
Well, I mean, like at the time, and I saw a lot of articles that use the word prostitute, but the word I like to use more now is sex worker. You know, like, it's like there's these evolutions. No, and that's what I said.
Things. You know, I always said sex worker, or with experiences in the sex trades, or all those things.
Right.
But like, I was an idiot prosty teacher to them in one headline. Like, they were relentless. So the headline started, and then the story kind of picked up.
There were so many articles that I found this morning.
Many, right?
I mean, it's like I just listened to an interview with Monica Lewinsky, and she's kind of having this cool redemption moment, which I love, and I'd really love to have her on someday too. Like, the way that they came for women in that era.
And so, like...
And I mean, she was decades before, like, just the way
so
they
unremarkable.
attacked.
Like, it was during that era where it was like the Octomom, where they would just kind of pluck a woman from obscurity who was kind of doing this thing that was just like impermissible societally.
Like, this wasn't blowjob with the president. This was
exactly.
Teacher used to do this thing that a lot of other women do. Like,
Like, I'd said the quiet thing out loud, and suddenly... It was like from all sides. Yeah. It was, you know, that woman is not fit to be working with children, all the way to like seemingly progressive people who were just like, well, you just shouldn't have said anything. Like, why did you like out yourself?
Sure.
So that was pretty confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. So then what ended up happening with your job? Because I was reading somewhere that like the mayor got involved. Like, it became quite a thing.
It's really remarkable to think now because we live now in an era where like anybody's the main character for like 3 hours and then they move on to the next story.
Very fast news cycle.
Right. But this was more a period where they would take that one story and live with it for a lot longer. And it was very early when like nobodies like me were becoming like characters in the news and serving a narrative that had really nothing to do with my life. Like I just became this poster child for bad teachers and who were abusing teacher tenure. Which is what I had. I had tenure after having 3 years of service. It wasn't some sort of orchestrated plan. Right. I didn't mastermind it to get like attention for my memoir. This was literally how many years ago? 2010. Yes. So like there was no book. And it was like
a 700-word quickie. Like and
I had
no one of your first pieces.
I think we think when someone's like in the spotlight, then they have.
It's all planned.
It's all planned. It's savvy. There's some sort of like media, but none of that. Yeah. I had very little then. I just gotten out of a shitty relationship. I was really newly sober. Oh. I had this job, thankfully, that I was just starting to get good at.
Which one?
Public school teaching.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I thought we were talking about after the article came out.
No.
Yeah.
No, I had nothing. Yeah. I had nothing for a very long time. So when I say like all's well that ends well, not really. Yeah. Even now, like not even that long ago, before I was able to sell a book and I was just like trudging along as a freelancer, like I would always try to get like a real job, and like I will never have a real job again. Because I am the hooker teacher when you Google me, because I have this provocative history. Wow. And instead of just kind of apologizing and changing my name, I really doubled down. Good. And moved forward in my life with that truth just out there and open. One, the experience of having worked in the sex industry. Yep. That's a part of my story. And also now that I had survived mass media humiliation, which is the term we use to describe when a woman is just burned at the stake on TV and across the media.
Mass media humiliation. That's powerful. Wow. And I wish I could say that it feels like it's gotten so much better. But I mean, when I came across you and your story, I was thinking of these recent people that have gotten fired from teaching jobs, but also from being a nurse, being, I think, a firewoman, like these public jobs that are women that have OnlyFans.
Right.
And it's the same shit.
It really is.
And
so
it's like, these
happening.
are recent. These are recent. And I'm like, well, you know what? None of these jobs are paying that much. So this is some supplemental income shit is what's going on. I mean, a firefighter and a nurse, like these people are they're working very hard as is.
Right.
And they're creating these new revenue streams to pay all their bills, especially in a city like this. So yeah, I've seen a lot of that even recently.
Right. Yeah, no, it's still happening. And it happens to celebrities. Women are just villainized and tore apart relentlessly. It happens to obscure women who are just plucked out of that obscurity and turned into a caricature and a headline.
Yeah.
And it's really just women who are trespassing these expectations that have been set for us and we're being made an example of. You cannot be this and this.
Right. You're like the whore or the housewife.
Truly.
Here's a little secret about those couples that can't keep their hands off of each other. They know that intimacy requires intention. What I love about Aria is that you're getting a custom intimacy expert in your back pocket that is helping design custom fit scenes for you and your partner to bring your fantasies to life and help make sex talk that much easier. Just take one quick quiz and they will handle everything from expert guidance to premium products discreetly delivered. Visit arya.fyi/STR for 15% off. If you are watching or listening to this, you're probably interested in sex and or kink and are curious about finding new partners to explore things with. However, it can be difficult to find those people. The thing I love about the HUD app is that it's more than just an app. They have a community, a podcast, and a ton of education. And inside of their app is a bedroom feature, so you can select all of the things you're interested in, all of the things you want to try, all the things you don't want to try, and that can be shown to potential future partners. So to learn more, go to hudapp.com/sextalk. That is hudapp.com/sextalk, SEGGSTALK. Look, I am a vibrator girl through and through. However, I think it's really fun and important to bring in an element of penetration to solo or partnered play. That is why I'm excited to share with you guys the Solina line of hyper-realistic dildos brought to you by Peep Show Toys. They are a line of 3 different sizes of super realistic dual density silicone dildos. Not only do they feel and look extremely realistic, but on the inside you have a thicker, more dense silicone, so it really does feel like a real erection. Get 10% off of your entire order at peepshowtoys.com using code SEGGS, SEGGS. My entire life changed when I started tracking my hormones and my menstrual cycle more closely. That's what I love about the Stardust app is it's far more than a period tracker. It is an entire hormonal health universe inside of an app. It is beautifully designed. It is fun. It is hilarious. And it is extremely educational. It has helped me redefine a relationship with my cycle that makes it much more lighthearted. And it's extremely helpful as you go through the month. Wherever you download your apps, go and search for the Stardust app, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. I'm really impressed. How did you navigate staying sober when all of this came out? Just as another sober person, that sounds really consuming.
I'm so grateful that I had that foundation by then. I did have a really strong program at the time. Yeah. I was so committed to a recovery community.
Totally.
And mostly women also. I had found that.
I've been steering clear of the co-ed meetings lately.
Which I didn't at first, you know? Like
same,
that was
same.
Definitely part of how I got sober was like, oh, check out
the hotties.
Exactly. And so I really started to become more disciplined about a wholehearted practice in recovery. And, you know, I had just enough recovery, just enough sense of self, just enough privilege,
Sure.
resources, and people. It's weird. It's kind of like people. You ever like imagine if you died, who would come to your funeral?
Totally.
It's like that happened, except I wasn't dead.
Ooh.
So it was like the people
who's
that
gonna
came
show
out of
up?
the woodwork
Yes.
that actually showed up
Yes.
for me. It was like so random and wonderful.
Yeah.
Like all of these random people
Yeah.
like just stepped up. And I mean, no one had like money or anything to like carry me all the way. But
Right.
like just like a nice email from like some rando dude I dated, like,
Wow.
you know, that was just kind of cool.
Yeah.
It was like,
Especially from a guy. Yeah.
right. I just got a lot of just enough
Yeah.
support to keep going. Not enough to like, okay, I'm going to really like sue the department and like and win a retaliation case, which is what I would have done.
Yeah.
But enough to survive.
Yeah.
And to survive sober. Like there was no like going back to what my life looked like prior to becoming a teacher, getting sober, and leaving the industry. Like that really wasn't an option in that critical moment.
Yeah.
But like for years, it was like the only thing that kept me from going back to sex work was like knowing that I would be humiliated on another cover of a newspaper if they found out.
Wow.
Which would never happen to me again.
Right. Yeah. What did it look like with family or people that didn't know that about you, about sex work? And was that challenging?
So I moved to New York from the Midwest right after school, undergrad. And I didn't have a close relationship to my parents. I think by then I didn't speak to my father at all.
Yeah.
And my mom was always like in denial about who I was. So she knew by then that I had worked as a stripper. That was information that had been revealed.
Yeah.
And that experience was super traumatic and shamey. So we didn't, it was don't ask, don't tell.
Right.
When it came to sex work. And I was figuring that out outside of my relationship with her.
Yeah, definitely.
So when the New York Post happened, I got an email from my brother, who I also didn't speak to. I didn't have any close family. He sent me an email, then the subject was, why is CNN trying to get a hold of Dad?
Oh my God.
Subject.
Great.
And then a second email, never mind, I Googled you.
Oh, no body, just a subject line?
Just that.
Oh,
now my
boy.
brother was like in and out of his own version of recovery.
Sure.
And we had no relationship.
Yeah.
for like a minute
Oh, boy.
after this we did, because he sent a third email that was like, I read your writing.
Oh.
He'd found another article I had written for a place called The Rumpus, which is like the small literary publication. And maybe something else he had found. And he said, and I want you to know that I read all of it and I know exactly why you did what you did. And I am so proud of you.
Oh.
I'm telling you, I do not speak to my brother.
Right.
So to receive something like that.
Oh, I'm still going to tear up.
I know. It was so, again, like one of those messages that kept me going.
Right.
And then I think like we had a bit of a relationship for a while, and you know, it's hard when someone's sober and someone not in recovery.
Yes.
But my mom never mentioned it.
And
like not for months.
Yeah.
And then when she finally did, it was like, I don't know why they bothered you, or like, I don't know why that happened.
Dismissive. Yeah.
Pretty much so. So that gives you a sense of where
context.
I'm coming from.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like I had friends, but they were all like new recovery friends.
Yeah.
So I didn't really you think people have someone when something like that happens. Now when I see something like that happen to someone, even when they're a celebrity, I'm like, does that person have people?
Oh.
Because I did not have anyone.
Yeah, a celebrity might not even have like those core people that swoop in. And
you think that everyone, you probably, even if something terrible doesn't happen, not or publicly, you know, like you think everyone has someone. And people don't have people. Not the way we like think.
It's kind of an acquaintance culture right now, I feel like, especially with social media and this dating apps. And it's like,
everyone's kind of peripheral. There's not like, so to have that, you really have to really work for it.
Yeah.
And really count people that might not count you, which feels really vulnerable.
Right.
But, I had some people, but not really. When I did ultimately surrender my career, which was what was imminent and inevitable, I ended up moving back in with the ex that I had just worked so hard to leave.
Oh, shoot.
And that lasted another 4 years.
Wow.
And it was very, very slow to rebuild a life.
Yeah. So what do you mean you surrendered your career? Was there was pressure for there to be, could they not fire you?
They couldn't fire me because I was tenure. They had to take it to a hearing.
Okay.
So it's
or make you miserable till you quit.
Yeah,
or like
basically.
Whatever.
So either I could quit right away, or I could make them take me to a hearing, compel them to take it to a hearing, do an investigation.
Which is what happened, right?
Me. So that's why Bloomberg got involved, because they're investigating.
Let's just add more trauma to this fucking fire.
Well, now it was
Jesus.
super terrifying.
Yes.
I'm being investigated. I had done nothing wrong. I need you to know I had an impeccable record professionally. I was a fantastic teacher.
Yeah.
My administration at my school loved me. Oh. Everybody loved me. I was beloved.
Yeah.
I'm not great at everything, but I was really good at teaching kids. I was really good at it. It was really hard. I had to be there super early. And
for sure.
Not used
Teachers
to
are the most.
It's
they need
really
to be
hard.
Praised.
And I get sick all the time because kids are just
disgusting.
Bags.
Yeah.
So
oh my gosh.
It was just really hard to be a teacher. But I got really good at it in those 3 years, and no one had any complaints. Even the New York Post couldn't find anyone that would
to speak negatively.
No, not about me personally. People were like, "Oh, she, we don't want that."
In our
teaching our kids, or I hope she didn't speak to my daughters or whatever.
Oh my god!
But even that, they really struggled to find anyone who could really say anything negative about me. And I knew if they checked my records or
so that's what they were investigating. Was
I didn't write on company time. They were looking for a reason to fire me.
I see.
And the only thing they could really say was that I had done this outside of class. I had not even done sex work, but written about it.
Wow.
So I had.
You're no shit.
I'm not allowed to. It's funny because one time I was well, this is a really this reference did not age well, but I was at the time it was not so terrible to compare myself to Kanye West.
Oh God, yeah, things have come a long
total
way.
Different. This was back when he was George Bush doesn't care about black people, Kanye West.
Okay,
and I was it's not I'm just saying something we all know.
Right.
We know that women
do this thing,
and then they move on in their lives in the world and are public professional people. And it's not irreconcilable that we are both sexual beings and serious human beings.
No, women can't contain multitudes. Women must be categorized.
Right. It's not, I am both these things.
I mean, I've struggled with that because I was a CEO before I was a sex podcaster. And it's been really hard to be perceived specifically by men as now just a horny, dumb sex object. When I'm I feel I often have to prove I'm smart to them because I'm put in a box of sex.
Right.
And I'm sex and business, they can't, it's just
and if anyone perceives you as sexy, and you're a professional, it's on you anyway. Why are you dressed that way? Or, you have to really tone it down so that you're constantly trying to control and manage everybody's impressions of you.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
Absolutely.
I didn't show up to work in something I would have shown up to work in.
Yes.
But I was still the same 30-something-year-old. I'm not even that hot. I'm now, I'm especially not because I'm really old. But
oh my gosh.
Then I was just a normal woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just a normal woman. And we all are both sexual beings.
Yes.
And contributory to our communities.
Yeah.
We are citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And professionals
Yeah.
and parents and mothers and, all the things that a human being can be, we get to be.
Yeah.
And we have sex.
Yep. Yes,
Sorry.
we do. I know. No, I mean, I really want young women listening to this to like take that in, that it's going to be hard to do both. But I mean, for years, I had huge boobs. I actually had a reduction, and like I would cover them completely up in my business era because I didn't want my sexuality or how I came across to diminish how smart I was in like the boardroom or whatever. And it's like those little things that I did. I understand why I did them at the time, but now I'm like, I want to teach other and younger women that you can do whatever the fuck you want. You might still be, the patriarchy is still going to try to put you in a fucking box, but I mean, do it all, baby.
Really what I learned ultimately, it doesn't matter if you're a teacher or an astronaut or a secretary or a prostitute. Some guys are going to look at you and think you're a whore.
For sure.
It does not matter what you're wearing or how you're presenting yourself, or like they're not going to take you seriously.
Definitely.
They're not going to treat you with respect. And it's not your fault when that happens. I blamed myself so fucking hard.
Oh, I bet.
I thought, what could I have done differently to prevent this, to manage it, to, turn it to my benefit? And now I feel real ashamed because I'm trying to benefit off of this. Like there was no way to like play this where I would feel empowered by it.
Yeah.
Except to just move through that situation towards my ideals and the goals I had prior to all of this happening to me.
Yes.
And to not take responsibility to what was done to me, which was for a long time. Maybe it was my fault. I shouldn't have written this, or I should have.
Right.
It was not my fault. I am not responsible for what they did.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I did have to resign because nobody was going to agree with that. Actually, you'll appreciate this. So I had Gloria Allred as my lawyer.
Yes. I was just watching your little speech today, actually, on the Uber. No, you're so cute.
No. I can't, it's so hard. I still cringe at like little baby me struggling through that imperfectly. And
doing the fucking best you could.
Amanda Knox wrote a memoir about her experience and what she struggled through with the Italian prosecutors. She's a 24-year-old American student abroad.
I've watched that docuseries.
Right.
But I feel a little mixed up after watching the docuseries.
Oh, I'm like always going to side with women victimized by mass media humiliation. But for a long time, she really beat herself up. In her first memoir, she just could not but take responsibility for all of her imperfect behaviors through that ordeal. We are so imperfect.
Yeah. Then there's no guidebook for anybody that's experiencing what you did.
And you become so hypersensitive.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be hurt anymore. So you're trying to avoid. It kind of flared up again after my book was published. And I had to get an author photo. And I was so hypercritical because I anticipated criticism.
Sure. Of like, that's too slutty of an outfit.
Right.
Or
and
like,
that's really what shame is. So shame is like this preemptive strike. The world is going to disown me, reject, and refuse to allow me to be this thing they think I am. And so I got to get in front of it and either hide this truth about me, this imperfection or inadequacy, or lie or change it. If I just work really, really hard, I won't be that thing that no one loves. And something I learned almost recently, maybe even after I'd written the book, is just how to really feel grace towards that. I made peace with my shame with the author photo thing because I was like, I'm just trying to protect myself.
Yes.
That shame is just trying to protect me from feeling that hurt that I felt then.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you speak a little bit about, in your book, you talk about the difference between shame, embarrassment, and I think humiliation. I would love for you to elaborate on that a bit because I thought that was cool.
So embarrassment is like when something happens to us that reveals a fault, or shows a vulnerability. But we know it happens to other people too. So we're not really.
It's like, it's so funny when that happens. Like,
right.
And then you're kind of embarrassed.
Us to others because we know it's just like that thing.
Right.
That thing that happens to humans. We're kind of embarrassed, maybe even deeply embarrassed. But it's no reflection on us because it happens to everyone. Whereas shame is like this. It is a reflection on we fear who we are, and it undermines our connections to others.
We fear who we are. Is that what you said?
It's a fear that it's not what we did.
Yeah.
It's who we are.
Wow.
So it's a real deep terror that if this is true about us, it's a stain or mark against us, that if others knew, they would love us less.
Wow.
And they would take care of us less. We would not be taken care of. We will not be included in the ways that we need to be included to be physically and emotionally safe.
Yeah. Oof.
And then there's humiliation when there is somebody with power over you.
Okay.
Who is telling you or making you feel less than.
Yeah.
The difference between shame and humiliation is humiliation, we know that what they're doing is wrong. Mm-hmm. So a lot of us felt humiliated after the last election.
For sure. Yeah.
Because here this powerful character was behaving improperly with impunity.
Yeah.
They were imposing upon us their beliefs, which we know are wrong.
Yeah.
And doing it just, like in this like shocking and absurdly empowered way. Mm-hmm. And that's really what happened when the New York Post kind of ran into my life and called me a hooker teacher on their cover. Like they were humiliating me just for their own sake, for their own means. It wasn't about me. And at the time I knew I was being humiliated.
Right. But it generated shame.
But what ends up happening is when we're humiliated, when we feel humiliated, and maybe some of us experienced this recently, we begin to question the world because either we're right and the whole world is wrong.
Right.
But can that be so?
Yeah.
So it really undermines your relationship to the world. It's almost a trauma in that way. Like it shakes your fundamental belief in the goodness of people. Because even though I had like all those people who were kind of standing up for me, like the majority of the world wasn't.
It was like the mob.
And even people who were kind of standing up for me. Like I remember one day I was like sitting in the rubber room and it was right when like all of those girls were being found on the beaches. You don't even have to know what I'm talking about to know what I'm talking about.
Lisk. Long Island serial killer. Yeah. I'm a true crime junkie.
And the guy at the desk, like 3 desks over, was like, well, doing what they were doing, what did they expect to happen? Which is such a...
Yeah, they're sex workers.
Seemingly benign attitude towards...
I'm assuming he also knew about your history, though.
Yeah, but he wasn't saying it for my benefit. It was just...
Yeah.
A thing that people think.
Yep.
And that's a thing that people think. They think you're less than human.
Well, I mean, as a true crime enthusiast, I see the patterning of how they talk about sex workers is dramatically different, and about female victims.
Oh, sure.
Like there's a current girl that's missing right now and they keep blasting her bikini picture everywhere. And I'm just like, this is fucking insane, the way that women are portrayed with true crime and sex workers.
Right.
And the way they speak to it's awful.
I mean, like when you have experiences in the sex trade and you come out, people are going to have one of 3 reactions. Like they're titillated and you can kind of see them drawn in.
Like, oh, I've got questions for you.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're like, ugh. They're disgusted.
Sure.
Or I'm going to add this to that same one. They feel sorry for you.
Well, is that
its own or category, or maybe we'll say disgusted is one. You can tell they're disgusted. Maybe we'll put they feel sorry for you in the other category.
Yeah. And it's an assumption that it was out of desperation, duress, coercion, all of those things. Yeah.
And then maybe there's that neutral, sex work is work. And there's levels of like, okay, that's annoying. Like,
Right.
you still think you know what you're talking about when you clearly don't.
Yeah.
Like, all of these people immediately think they know
Yes.
your entire story because
Yes.
of that one label, which is what stigmatizing labels do for people.
Yeah.
And even if you know better, like, to have to constantly feel like revealed by that one thing it's exhausting.
Totally. Yeah. I keep thinking about when this all happened, how scary it must have been to like, there was never, I'm somebody that I love closure. I love an end. So like the fear of when is the next article, when is the next thing, like
it was very traumatic.
No peace.
And like
There's
a year
no
later,
peace.
the New York Post came back. So I don't think I finished this. I ended up, it was going to go to hearing.
Oh yeah.
And our first day of hearing, we sat down and I had a lawyer. Oh, I had Gloria.
Badass lawyer.
Yeah. Gloria was like, she's kind of like a public figure.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a lot of lawyers working behind her. And they're very good lawyers.
Cool.
And they
which case is she famous for?
I mean, anytime there's a sexy woman in the news, she loves it. It's funny too, because I literally like sent their office one of those like contact us forms.
Yeah.
And was like, help me.
Yeah.
And she did. She like called me that night. Like she's like a badass bitch.
Yes.
Just for no reason at all other than what was happening to me was wrong.
Yeah.
She swooped in. And she gave me her whole team and these very, very intelligent, very, very good lawyers, all working pro bono.
Wow.
I'm so naive. I'm like, of course you are. I'm entitled to this. I wasn't. They helped me so much. And they helped me to see that I did not have a case. I was going to lose.
Yeah.
And this is what I thought you'd appreciate. The reason I was going to lose is because the closest case to it, like the case law, the closest case they could find, it's bad. The closest case to mine that they could compare it to was a teacher, a male teacher who was in NAMBLA.
What's that?
National Association of Men Who Love Boys.
Oh.
He was an affiliate with this like
creepy
thing. And that was speech, which it is speech, like legally.
Like
so mine was like
speech?
Mine's a free speech case. Like I was allowed to state that opinion. It doesn't matter how undesirable you think it is. Governmental employees are protected. Not all employees are, but governmental employees, free speech is protected. You can't fire someone for speech. This is how you can fire someone for speech, a government employee. The political importance of their speach is outweighed by the distraction it causes in the workplace. So to have a legal case, I would have had to argue that there was no distraction or the distraction was minimal. And then I would have to argue my political speech was very, very important. And I could have made an argument that it wasn't my speech, but the New York Post speech that created. But they were basically like, you're going to lose. Because this pedophile lost. He wasn't allowed to be in that group and still be a teacher.
Wow.
That was the closest.
Wow.
I forget the word. Precedence?
Right. Yeah. Like judges have to kind of compare it to other things that have happened.
Right. So that's why
that is such a different fucking category. My God.
So they were very, very...
like that makes it unsafe for that person to teach, you know?
Right.
Like whereas your situation is so different.
Right. But in their mind, it was like deviant sexual conduct.
I also think that the distraction element, like, of course, a woman's going to be more distracting to everything than a man. Like, that word is bizarre.
But, I mean, it did require some humility because, like, a distraction had been created. It wasn't my school's responsibility to, like, argue for the rights and self-determination of individuals with experiences in the sex trade. Like, that's not what they're going to school each day to do.
Right.
So, I was like, okay, like, I got to let go. I'm gonna just and then when I walked in that room, he was like, you're gonna lose. I knew I was gonna lose because my lawyers already told me. Right. The arbitrator. And he said, do you want to lose this hearing and be fired for misconduct? Or do you want to quit? Because if you're fired for misconduct, You will not get unemployment. And what are you going to do for money? And he smirked.
Wow. Why do we need to throw in the "and what are you going to do for money" part? I mean, just fuck off.
It's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do for what are you going to do for money?
Wow.
You will not get unemployment. And by then I'd tried to get another job. I'd had 100-something days, and I knew I was unemployable.
Yeah. Wow.
And so
wow.
I did quit. I resigned.
Wow.
Long story short, right?
Yeah. No. I mean, it's all very important. I mean, before we get into your book and the research you've done on shame, do you want to share anything particular about the in-between time or years? I mean, it sounds like you started writing your book pretty shortly after this, but like...
I mean, I'd been working on a memoir since even before, just to make sense of my ambivalent experience in the sex trades. It wasn't entirely positive nor entirely negative. It was something in between. And I really didn't see that narrative reflected in media.
Totally.
To me, I people were either like happy, empowered hookers or like victims that had been sex trafficked.
Yes. No, it's very extreme.
Yeah, I didn't
for sure.
see someone who like really enjoyed it, but also knew it kind of wasn't good for them. And ultimately it was really spiritually bankrupting and it destroyed my life. But I liked it. So
sounds like such a sober person answer. Like
it felt good.
The outside, yes. Hey, we're self-aware, baby.
Working on that, making sense.
Yeah.
You know how I got in and out.
Yeah.
So I'd had like a book that I've been working on for a really long time. But even then, like I didn't, and now the ending was, and then I became a teacher and then I got fired. The end.
Right.
So it still wasn't really.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I became a freelance writer. I started publishing short nonfiction. I started teaching, mostly underheard writers and at-risk nonprofits like Ali Forney Center or Girls Education Mentoring Services, which describes itself as an anti-trafficking agency. I would get to go in there and take the girls into a room and shut the door, and they could write whatever they wanted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I remember one time they were like, "You're not allowed to use the P word in your group." And I was like, "What's the P word?"
Yeah.
Which P word are we not allowed to say?
Of course.
They're like, prostitution.
Like, you can write whatever you want here.
I know. We shut the door. I'd be like,
let me tell you.
All the P words are on the table.
Yeah.
And I would have girls walk in there and be like, "I love selling pussy and I love my pimp." Be like, "Girl."
Oh, no.
And actually, it was a very revealing.
For sure.
Revelatory. Like, I learned a lot about my own 19-year-old self.
Right.
By hearing them so defiantly.
Well, and having a safe space where that writing isn't necessarily going to go anywhere. Like, to just be able to write. I mean, like, I write morning pages sometimes, and I'm like, I hope nobody sees this because it's fucking crazy.
Right.
But
one day you're going to be like, "I love selling pussy and my pimp's the best." And the next day you're going to be like, "This shit fucking destroys me and I want to die." We contain multitudes.
We do, for sure.
So, I created spaces all over the city where people just got to out their truth without any fear of stigma or recrimination. It was not going to be used against you, whatever you had to say. My workshops were the place to say it.
Wow.
And I did this work for a decade. I became a mom, and that just blew all my ambitions to shit for like at least 5 years.
How old is your kiddo?
My oldest is 7.
Oh, okay.
My youngest is 5, so 5 and 7. And I am just now reemerging from mommy hibernation.
Totally. Well, just to go back for a second, I think that's a really fucking cool reclamation to be teaching those workshops and like to turn the shame and humiliation into like preventing other women from experiencing that in some way. Like, I don't want to say preventing it, but empowering them. I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think what I learned is like you can't prevent it.
No.
Like, you're going to be shamed.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like living out loud in ways that go against the grain. If you are your whole true self, publicly,
it's going to ruffle some feathers.
Someone's going to be pissed and try to suppress that.
Yeah.
Someone is going to try to make you not that. because that's not what we're taught to be.
We're supposed to get women back into their little boxes.
Right? So you're going to be shamed and you're going to feel ashamed. Even if intellectually you know better. Like I knew there was nothing wrong with sex work. I knew there was nothing wrong with me writing and publishing about it. But at times I absolutely felt ashamed. What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
I'm like a very intellectually, like I'm a feminist. I'm an intelligent woman. And I feel ashamed all the time. And that's what my book connects to. Because when I became a mom, like here I am, this like portrait of femininity. I'm exactly who you want me to be. Like I knew, okay, when I was, you know, a dirty little sex worker doing all these naughty things, that's obviously I'm not doing the right things sometimes.
But societally, it's like,
and I'm not following the rules. So I understand why that character is like misunderstood and perceived as harmful and feels ashamed. But like here I am doing everything fucking right. And I still am under constant surveillance. I'm still judged to shit constantly. It's this tightrope that I'm walking all the time and I'm always falling short. This feels like maybe it's not me.
Oh, what about that?
And like maybe I can't be respectable no matter how respectable I perform.
Yeah.
And that became the book.
How did that shift with motherhood? I do not have kids, but I've heard that those pressures even increased.
It was so much worse. Honestly, it felt so much worse because I really did want to be a good mom.
Yeah.
More than I wanted to be a good woman. You know, like that was like, fuck you. This is fun. And I'm doing me.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to do right by my children. And I got so many conflicting messages of who I had to be in order to do right by them.
Yeah.
And it was just this impossible list of things I needed to accomplish every day in order to just pass. It was exhausting in a way that like that, at least I was alone, but at least I had this little subculture that I understood me. And like I had, you know, the girls I worked with or whatever, but like motherhood, I had nothing and no one except my kids. It was so lonely. And I just felt really trapped. And actually, what got me out of it is my son started to present with special needs. And then I was like, okay, everything I'm learning about parenting is not useful to me at all.
Oh my gosh.
What's most important to me was my kids.
Of course.
So it's one thing if you're like trying to keep up with your neighbors because your kids are like almost just like them. But my kid was like so much not like any of the other kids on the block that I had to just drop all of that and do what was
back
right
to
for
creating
them.
your own guidebook.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've done some research on shame and interviews with people for your book.
Right.
I would love to hear more about that. Some of your takeaways or,
Right. So in the beginning, I talk about how in recovery, we hear this phrase like piece of shit in the center of the universe. Have you heard that one yet?
Yeah. Well, from you. I heard it from you a few days ago.
You think you're like
special.
How about this? You know this one, terminally unique.
Yes.
So we're all terminally unique. Like
we think we are.
Our uniqueness is just we're just so exceptional, and it will be the end of us. I think I still held on to that at the beginning when I was wanting to write and publish my own story. I still needed the validation of like, see me, hear me, understand me.
Yeah.
And I felt ambivalent about needing that validation. And it really took turning it from what was then a memoir into this more prescriptive hybrid memoir where I got to speak to 150 plus, mostly women, about their own experiences with this pernicious emotion, how they experience shame in their lives, what happens as a result, and how they move through it.
Yeah.
Which is really the goal. We're going to feel shame. We're going to be shamed. It's not to not feel shame. It's to experience it just as we experience any other emotion, anger, disgust, lust, fear, joy.
Yeah.
All of the human experiences we don't want to reject any of it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we experience shame in a way that doesn't corrupt our behavior or negatively influence our sense of self? How do we just let it pass through us?
Sure.
And at best, connect us to others, because it's like any other human experience, something that they also understand.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? I talked to so many individuals about, what were their triggers? We looked at, how are these triggers reinforced in our culture?
Yeah.
How is it not a unique experience? So we de-individualized our pain points. We talked about, what you do when we're overcome with shame. What ways do we act out? In what ways do we become like we're not our best selves?
Right.
When shame is driving that car.
Right.
So where does shame take us? What's our anger? It's all the same trauma responses. We fight, we flee, we fawn, which is really horrible.
Yeah. Can be harmful.
It's just painful. It's confusing to think like, I'm trying to please my perpetrator. That person just told me to smile, and I'm just like smiling.
Yeah.
But we do. And then, we freeze. We just turn off in the face of shame. We all do. So this is what happens when we feel shame. And this is what we can do to become more resilient to it. Part of it is just doing what we're doing here and what I did in those interviews, connecting with others, sharing, trading stories, and going deep and really being vulnerable without fear.
Yes.
I got to do that, which was amazing.
Yes.
And that was like, it
cool.
put me right over the edge where it was like, no, I really am over it.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm really over what happened to me.
Wow. When I think of, I like what you were saying about needing to experience and process shame. I think when I think of the more harmful, shameful moments, and I'm thinking about myself like alone, isolating in my apartment, which is kind of part of how I cope. But what I'm learning through being in recovery is like, not the way, not always the way. Like that's where I think about shame hurting me the most. When I think about calling a friend, sitting with other people, like doing the thing, and that is part of the processing experience. I mean, speaking to feeling terminally unique and being in 12-step program and in recovery, it's like I avoided the rooms for so long because I thought my unique nature of alcoholism was so special that I didn't actually need that because I'm not quite that, and what I love about actually taking it seriously this go in sobriety is the constant humility of that, and not feeling so terminally unique and special. And I mean, just that humanness, I can leave a meeting and just feel so connected again.
Right.
And that helps with
back
shame.
To like this like human experience. It's not one person or one,
right.
It's just a general sense of belonging that we get from a safe container, which is what a 12-step program offers.
Yeah.
The phrase is like, that's a safe container. Whenever you bring to that space,
right,
you can dump it out.
Yes.
People are going to reflect back and mirror your emotions, but you're not going to overwhelm anyone.
Right.
No one's going to get angry.
You also don't get a bunch of feedback and advice, which is so fucking great.
Right. It's like the good enough parent that we all should have had, where that
totally
they just reflect.
Yes.
They show you the appropriate emotion, but they hold it a little lighter than you are, so that you can also hold it more lightly.
Yeah.
And you move out of it lighter as a result. I found the same comfort in writing workshops. When I started writing, people could hear my story and they'd be like, we want more details. The protagonist could reflect here a little more, so there is feedback in a writing workshop.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a protagonist and not you. So it's kind of, which is like narrative therapy.
Yeah.
Who you were then versus who you're becoming and who you are now, the protagonist versus a narrator.
Yeah.
And you're kind of reflecting back, and it's always past tense, even when it's still happening. So you're able to give yourself some distance, and the room just wants it to be the most honest, enlightened, work that it can be. So you're always just encouraged to make meaning of your experience. So both of those spaces for me were just like so transformative.
Yeah.
And they modeled really how we become shame resilient, which is finding that safe container, whether it's, you know, a group of friends over a dinner table or that one trusted friend.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just give them that little bit of truth and they hold it with you. And then maybe next time you can give them even more and they hold it with you. And then and they'll give you some of theirs and you hold it with them. And you just grow more and more connected to them, but also connected to yourself.
Right. I love the word shame resilience. That's what you used, right?
Right.
I like
and that I didn't make that term up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that, because if we ever feel like we're supposed to just push something away or not experience it, it's like, I like that phrasing.
No, we are enduring so much. This isn't about rejecting or avoiding or denying. And in fact, when we try to do that,
creates more shame.
Absolutely. It's just really compounds.
Learned that. Yes.
The negative feelings.
Yep.
Whereas if we allow it to wash over us, we feel it. And then because it is hard to feel, we share it with someone else so that they can also hold it with us. It becomes lighter and we're just so much more empowered as a result.
So before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about sexual shame specifically. I think that I have listeners and viewers who would be curious to know your thoughts and advice on that. I think I have a lot of my listeners are kind of, you know, somewhere along their journey of maybe they're sleeping with more new people, they're on their empowered slut journey, or maybe they're trying a new kink, or I find that there can be a lot of excitement and arousal tied to these new naughty fun experiences, and then shame on the other side of it.
Right.
And something, at least personally, that I've learned is like I've gotten very clear on what I want to ask from a partner. Even if it's a one-night stand, I ask for a follow-up message the next day. I've like kind of created these guardrails for myself to feel good the next day and supported. It's kind of like, you know, aftercare in a way, versus you know, maybe having a sexual experience, never hearing from the person again, then that brings up and perpetuates shame and rejection and like all of that stuff. So I've kind of learned how to set myself up for success on some of my adventures. But I would love your thoughts on sexual shame.
You know, I really came up in a very sex negative culture initially.
Yeah.
You know, sex was bad and dirty and you don't do it until you're married.
Abstinence only.
Right.
Fun.
But then there was like this huge surge of sex positivity where it's like anything consensual is inherently pleasurable and fun and should be allowed.
Right.
I really like that was what I thought was supposed to be true. So long as I consented, it was supposed to be pleasurable.
Wow.
I mean, I feel like
That's
I've even
too.
Googled sex positivity and that comes up as a definition. And it was like so confusing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I consented to things that were not pleasurable.
Sure.
And I had really no framework for understanding like a healthy sexuality. It took me until like late 30s to be like, okay, it's consensual, but is there exploitation happening? Or do we share values? And not always. It doesn't have to be pleasurable, but pleasure is important. Sometimes I share values and it's not pleasurable. Is it safe? You know, a lot of my behaviors weren't safe.
Yeah.
And I just pretended, you know, that wasn't an issue because it's consensual and I'm having fun. So, but it haunted me then. You know, I wasn't really thinking critically about all the aspects of my encounters.
Right.
Not until I got sober. And then I had this sort of framework and then I had a lot more fun.
Oh, definitely.
Because I could be like, okay, you're a Trump supporter. I mean, he wasn't around. It was like, we don't share values.
Right.
But I'm enjoying this encounter. And it's consensual.
Yes.
And there's no exploitation. Or sometimes it was like, okay, there's, you know, you're kind of my boss, but like.
That's naughty.
We
That's
really
fun.
get along. And, like we share values and it's fun. Like it just, it made me able to kind of dissect the experience in all of its nuance, which is what, like, it sounds like you're able to do to kind of know what you need.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea what I needed. I just thought I needed to say yes because I didn't know how to say no. And that was absolutely not what I needed. And it wasn't then to like just say no all the time, but like to learn how to say yes and then to think about it afterwards. Because sometimes I said yes to things that didn't feel good afterwards. So I had to sort of understand what felt good and what didn't and why.
Yeah, for me, sex after sobriety was vastly different. Vastly. And it was super scary at first. It was fucking terrifying because I'd never really done it before.
Oh, I loved it. I wasn't scared at all.
Oh, okay.
I had a ton of fun.
I'd just been using alcohol as a crutch to, I don't know, explore kinkier things. Like I'd just been relying on that to get me comfortable with certain things.
I will say later, I started to notice physically, I think my body was oftentimes afraid and saying no when my head was like, no, we're doing this.
Yes.
This is even fun. So do it. I really mistook fear and excitement.
I've heard they're close together in the brain.
And I think thematically they're like the same in my body. Like when I start
it's confusing.
So my body even like only now, and I've been married like 10 years or whatever, and I'm with my monogamous partner. My body still kind of seizes up when my brain is like, no, everything's fine.
Sure.
Like, but I'm only becoming aware of that tightening in my body because my body I ignored for so long. I was just like, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing this. No, everything's fine. Just do it.
Right.
And I'm sure some of it I was drunk or I was for money or whatever, but like we're fucking doing this.
Right.
And I
like that became correlated to sex was just kind of enduring.
I'm not hearing no from you.
Right.
I'm saying yes. So learning how to like, now I'm saying yes. And I'm learning how to like communicate.
Definitely.
With my body.
Yeah.
And that has been really hard. Really hard.
Yeah.
But it's never too late. God, I know so many. I mean, they're probably not your audience, but like married women who just like never have sex again.
Totally. I hope they are my audience because I get messages where they're like, I really have this fantasy or this thing. And like, it's I mean, it's such a lame answer, but the answer usually comes back to communication. Like they've been married for 2 decades and they're just scared to bring up the thing for fear of rejection. And I can get that could be really scary in a long-term monogamous marriage because sometimes the partner's response is like, well, why didn't you tell me this sooner? Or like it can perpetuate feelings of, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
It's so easy
it's hard.
to just never have sex again.
Wow.
Because you got so much other shit to do.
For sure. I mean, I can't even imagine with motherhood too.
So you're no longer spontaneously aroused.
Yes.
Really, like you're not experiencing spontaneous desire.
Uh-huh.
You have to be aroused to feel desire.
Well, and women we need a solid 10, 20 minutes.
Right.
So like I always tell guys, like, if you want to get laid, if that's like not happening enough, like give her a 20-minute massage and then see if she's in the mood. Like, because we need a lot of time to get there.
And like whatever's happening in your head, girl, let that be. Don't judge that. Like if it's turning you on, let it like do it.
Definitely.
Like it's almost like it's such a practice. I don't want to use the word work. That language has other meaning in this conversation, but like you have to be really intentional and have that practice. But it's never too late to have a healthy sex life.
Yeah. And even if you haven't had sex with your partner in a very long time, it's okay to bring it back into it.
Right.
Like there's no wrongness there. We never want to perpetuate more shame.
No. And if you don't want to have a sex life with your partner, that's fine too.
Yeah. But best to acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Right. And if you're not having sex, make sure both partners are making that, assuming it's like 2 partners.
Right. Yeah.
Make sure everyone is like okay with not having sex. But usually I know so many women who just never have sex again. And they just never mentioned it. You know, they have a kid and that was that and then it's over and they're just living the rest of their lives without sex. And I actually want to go back and fix what I just said, which is never too late to have a healthy sex life. I don't think of it in a binary.
Sure.
Right? So let's not say healthy sex life or, healthier.
Yeah.
So how do we have the sex life we want?
Definitely. I think it's also okay from what I hear from friends that have kids, like send a Google invite. Like if we're really trying,
schedule
like
sex.
Yes. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
My husband and I have sex once a week.
I love that. Yeah.
Like, we don't know when, but, but it'll have to happen.
But you try to keep it at that frequency.
Because we've got so much going on and we're both so tired, especially me. Like, I'd love to do it more often, but like I only go for a run once or twice a week. Like I'd love to run more often too. But like I'd love to do lots of things. And we are given our one, this is life and there's a lot on our plates.
Yes.
So,
and I think even when it feels like the last thing you want to do, I think it's so important for couples to have that intimacy and moment, because I think a lot of resentment can come when it starts to get in it's been weeks. There's resentment, friend zone vibes. Like it's
absolutely for me, I really did reclaim sex as an intimate act, which felt so like hard because it felt like that was so like not sex positive or prudish to want sex to be intimate, to want it to be which doesn't like it can what that word means is
different for everyone.
Yeah, you can define
I understand that. I crave that.
Yeah, I'm not I mean, but like I wanted to rediscover sex.
Sure.
And it's really fun to kind of be here, all of me, thinking about what that encounter has the potential to be.
Definitely.
I think I have the best sex of my life now than I ever had.
I love that.
I had a lot of great sex.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I said it was spiritually bankrupting and all that shit. But like I hope also say that it was fun.
Yes, for sure.
I had a lot of great sex.
It can be both and. Yeah. No.
and I've never had better sex.
I love that. I mean, I have been on quite the fun, slutty, kinky journey the last couple of years, but like I deeply am craving a partnership. Like I want to go deep with somebody. My last relationship actually had a like very minimal sex, and it was before I went on this journey, and that led me to the podcast. And so I've never had a long-term relationship that has good sex. I have not had that yet.
I hadn't had that
either. And I'm like I'm craving that. And like, I think there's a little bit of like I'm seen in on social as this girl, whatever. Like there's a bit of my own identity that I have to break down of like, will people care when I'm the boring girl in the relationship?
Absolutely.
But I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I know what I want. So
I had that same dichotomy in my own brain that there was sexy and there was serious. And it's hard even now. Like I still have to really embrace all of me, all of my parts, all of the time, so that I can be a sexual being in a loving relationship.
Yeah.
And not virgin whore myself.
Right. Yeah, we can do that to ourselves.
But I'd also not had an intimate, like I wanted to go deeper. And that's really when it started to hurt, was I knew I wanted to go deeper, and I knew that this was an obstacle for me. It wasn't furthering me towards my goals.
What was?
Sex work.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Yeah, it's complex. So where can people find you and connect with you, and what do you have in the works?
They say to pick like one platform
that
you actually are good at or that you participate on. And I'm mostly on Instagram.
Okay.
I'm on everything, but I'm mostly on Instagram. I'll have a website. I have a website, but it's getting fixed up because I want to start talking more about teaching opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm teaching a workshop.
Amazing.
At Essalon.
Oh, cool. I'm a hippie West Coast girl.
Nice. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm so excited.
Beautiful. When is that?
Yeah, it's in July. I should know
good.
the dates,
Okay.
but I don't.
Well, this will be out before that, so I just want to make sure.
If you Google my name in Essalon, the workshop will come. It's Writing for Shame Resilience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I want to go. Fun. Cool.
That's what I'm hoping to get a really great group of people to do this work together.
Yes. Oh, how cool to be able to travel and teach. I envision that for you. I don't know.
That's what I do.
The goal, but I envision. Yeah.
I travel and teach, and
love that
a lot virtually. I have a couple of workshops I teach online, but I love working with people to find their story.
Yes. Amazing.
And tell it.
Okay. What's your Instagram handle?
It's like
I
my
don't
name,
know if you
Melissa
said it.
-Petro.
Okay.
Now is it?
Google her. You'll see the headlines, and you'll find her Instagram.
That's funny. I used to tell people, don't Google me.
Don't Google me. Look at that, though. Full circle.
Absolutely.
Google me. You will find her. I will tag her in all of the things.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for coming on today. This has been really wonderful, and I'm excited to hear what people think as well.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for tuning into the episode today. Be sure to stay in touch with us on socials at Seggs Talk Radio Podcast. That is SEGGS Talk Radio Podcast.